Thank you.
Awesome. So this is the Blue Swan podcast. Today we are asking Grammy Award winning producer Jeeves about music, AI, and everything in between. And
Right.
so this is with one Grammy win and then seven nominations across songwriting, production, and
Engineering as well, some technical stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Uh, yeah, a lot going on in general.
No,
Ups and downs.
it's all good, and the
Yeah.
studio is gorgeous. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Um, all right. So what's the origin of your story?
So long story short, I'm half French, half American. So I
Okay.
was born in the US, but I moved to France when I was two. And then it's countryside, Loire Valley, beautiful little town, and tiny with vineyards all around it. There's a little church, and it goes down this way, and you can just see, the view forever. So I was a kid there, and grew up going back and forth from France to the U.S., going to like schooling like a year one, a year one of the other, going back and forth because my father would teach in both countries back and forth as well. So luckily I was able to keep the English going enough, I can still talk today, sort of. I'm sure there'll be a lot of flubs here and there, but and then I studied in Paris. There's this school. It used to be called the Studio des Variétés. I don't think it exists anymore. But it's kind of like a fame school, where you kind of do everything. You act and you dance and you do all these. You sing and you play instruments and. So I did that for about a year and a half, and then after that I went to Berklee College of Music. So in the late 80s, so like in early, actually I think it was 1990. Gosh, yeah, it's been a while. So I went to Berkeley for a year and a half as well. I wasn't really there to get a diploma or anything like that. I was just there to learn, to actually learn my craft because I was already working with artists at the time. So I figured if I'm coming to LA, I might as well just kind of polish up on certain things, and which I did, which was great. And I recorded a whole demo while I was in Boston, and so I was kind of ready to go when I came to LA, and I was like 20 or something, 21 or 22, I forget. Came out here, just it was in the middle of the 80s. I mean, sorry, 90s, 90s hip hop rap vibe, gangster rap and everything. And interestingly enough, when I arrived, I wasn't really doing music at first because I didn't know anybody. So I did extra work in the movies for 2 years, just like background work, and I worked on a ton of movies. Actually, that's a whole story on its own. But long story short, I was not desperate at all in that industry because I wasn't trying to be an actor. I was just trying to work on my music, and I was trying to meet singers and artists, recording artists in general. And I figured they'd be probably on set, like doing extra work as well. Because it's not like a day job. So I figured I'd meet a lot of artists that way. And I did. And I met a ton of artists on sets. And it's funny because I kept getting work because I wasn't desperate at all as far as on the acting side. So when the director would say, "Okay, guys, we're gonna need," and everybody would just they didn't even have the time to finish what they were saying, and you'd have a crowd of people. Yeah, yeah, take me, and I'd be in the background somewhere, with my guitar and like a cassette machine, a tape machine, doing working on the song or something, or who knows what I was doing, but I was not at all like I was just kind of chilling. And so every once in a while they'd come and get me. Hey, you sir over there, can you come and they'd give me like a part. It was great. They'd give me like some words to say and things. And so I quickly got my SAG and AFTRA memberships that way. And so I was working a lot. I was actually making some decent money just being an extra, like an extra that gets parts every once in a while. So that lasted about 2 years. And then after 2 years of that, oh my gosh. I have another one. I don't want to spend too much time in here, but this is reminding me of another story. Oh my gosh. So my last audition, the last thing that I did for extra work was, oh my gosh, what was it? I forgot what it was for, but I go in this audition thing. There's a bunch of guys that look just like me. So I walk inside this place, and they're like, okay, this is a little strange, but can you just turn around and pull down your pants? We're trying to get you, see what we're trying to match you with the actor or whatever. And so I said, okay. So I turn around, pull down my pants, and then, okay, thank you. And then we'll call you, whatever. And so then I get out of the place. I'm like, wait, what did I just do? What just happened here? And that was it. That was the last thing I ever did. Like that was it for me. And then from that point on, I was doing music and having artists in my studio and everything. So that's how it all started. And so I had artists in my apartment studio for about a year or so. And then I met up with another guy. His name was Carlos. He went by Carlito, as in like, Carlito's Way. He was very much that guy. And he was great. He was an interesting character, but yeah, he was all kind of mafia guy, kind of wannabe. It was great. And So we did a lot of work together. He was like he wasn't a musician, but he was like the owner of the place, kind of. And so I had the studio with this guy, and then we started getting a lot of clients in, and I was just, a ton of rappers, ton of people that the crazy thing is that I didn't even know what hip hop was at the time. I knew what funk was. I was a funk guitar player in France and in my own band. And so I knew how, I knew the urban vibe in a way and the funky vibe and all that. So I kind of had to learn quickly what the hip hop was. And so I was just listening to a bunch of hip hop music. Then I was like, okay, it's pretty easy. Slow down funk with more bass. And they had 808 at the time already and all that low frequency stuff. And so I started doing a bunch of tracks and had a bunch of rappers coming in. I simply had an ad. I forgot we had an ad on, it was a Music Connection magazine. So I don't think that even exists anymore. I'm sure it's a website now. And that's how we got all our clients at the time. And so then I started working with a bunch of rappers and then it kind of built from there. And um, yeah, and then I guess maybe you have questions for me from that point on because that's where all the interesting stuff started happening. But anyway, long story short, hopefully not too long.
The evolution of music genres through time is actually fascinating. So, from jazz essentially kind of came funk, and then from
Yeah,
funk, hip hop and rap started to evolve. And so, and you've
you're
you've
talking about me. You mean like my experience?
I mean, so like the evolution of sound, but then
Oh yes, yes,
yeah,
of course, sure,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Because for me, it's interesting too. Because I started with classical music when I was 10, like guitar, actually six to 10, and then I started playing rock and other things. But yeah, then I went to jazz, and then I went same thing. I kind of the same progression in a way. So that's interesting. Uh, yeah,
yeah, no, and it shows because like with in terms of the Grammy with Vito Cuevas, like, you know, that's the Latin and the jazz sound, like there's overlap in terms of
yeah,
the percussion a lot.
a lot. Yes,
And so,
yeah,
but before Beto, you did tracks with Tupac, with Ice-T, Giorgio Moroder,
yeah.
Britney Spears on Giorgio
Yeah,
Moroder,
so the Georgia Murder, Britney Spears, that was after. That was a lot much later. That was in 2000, when was that? In 2000.
15.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that was after
Yeah, that
Beto.
was after Beto Cuevas. But yeah, all the rap stuff that was in the 90s. That was during their gangster rap era. So that was like I still do hip hop now, but it's very different. It's a whole different thing. But
Yeah,
yeah.
less. Yeah,
Yeah. Um yeah, oh my gosh, that was what a time that was. It was an insane it just people were there in there with guns and things and like, there was the main rappers and then there was the buddies, the homies and all that and the whole crew was there, and yeah. It was funny because the rock and roll vibe was kind of they had their own parallel way. They were more on the cocaine side of it, you know what I mean? And it was they were wired up in a different way, It's two different usages, two different uses of various substances,
okay.
two different vibes, they were parallel at the time, but yeah,
Um,
gosh, what a time. So many stories. I think I'm going to write a book at some point because there's a ton of things that happen.
no, no, you should. And so, but before the days of auto tune, there were more
Yeah,
the days of rap battles and gunplay, and so
yeah, yeah,
and it's like, well, the studio is gorgeous. Everything from the design to the lighting is great. Like there were times when people would accidentally raise the roof through with bullets by
yeah,
accident. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so so who was there and sort of what happened in that regard?
So yeah, at one point in that first studio, it was on Sunset Boulevard. Yeah, that was we had two of them. But yeah, Sunset, whatever. It was in Hollywood. Uh, at one point we had a party. It was like it was a New Year's party, and we were all just whatever, just walking around and laughing and playing music and everything. And then when midnight struck, everybody was like, "Hey!" And one of the guys just pulled out his gun and started shooting through the ceiling. And everybody started some of us started running, and then we oh my God, it's what's his name? Like, dude, what, and so it became this whole situation. We had to calm him down and just, hey, you know, just relax. It's fine. It's good, whatever. And he was kind of wasted or whatever. But yeah, and luckily we never heard from that the next day or anything. There were no holes through the ceiling to the next floor, and because there were office buildings, it was an office. I'm sorry, there were offices up there, and so yeah, we didn't really hear anything. So my guess is that the bullets hit some metal, or I don't know. Yeah,
No, I'm glad everybody was okay
yeah,
and they
yeah,
stopped in the roof instead of going through it. And so a lot has changed between, the types and cycles of production between the 90s and present day in terms of building something that people love and sort of pouring money into that and funding it to paid media
yeah.
and proof of concept prior to publication. And so how has that fueled your art and your productions sort of from the times of the earlier days when shots were being fired off to the Grammys in present day?
I mean, yeah. So a lot of years went by, between that time and then the Grammy time. But because I went through the whole progression when I was working there at that studio. So I was working with a lot of artists. Like, so Tupac was one of them, for example. Um, I guess should I tell us? Do you want me to hear my Tupac story?
I'm wearing a Wu-Tang hat.
Okay, all right, all right. So it's just one of those weird industry stories where that stuff happens a lot. But so I was with a guy that I was working with. His name was Henji, and I was working with him on doing these. I was doing the tracks, and he was kind of helping me like get inspiration. So he'd bring in a bunch of songs that were out there. He'd show me what they were doing and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I would just kind of I'd vibe off of these tracks, and I just did a bunch of tracks all the time at that point. I was doing tons and tons and tons of tracks and for these rappers, and they were just, well, I like this one and whatever. So at one point, I met up with them at Ice-T studio. He was up there because they knew each other somehow, and uh, there was another guy there, Valentino. Yeah, the engineer was there as well, and I was playing a bunch of the tracks that I'd done, and Tupac just walked in while that was happening, and I happened to be playing a track that he liked, and so he's like, "Oh, can I spin on this?" I'm like, "Of course." It wasn't even my studio. I'm like, "Of course, please," and so he went in there and he did like a verse and a chorus, just kind of off the top of his head, and then he left. I guess he went with his buddy. They wanted to get some weed or something, and then he never came back. So he never finished the song. And okay, so we all kind of left, and then it was basically over for that at that point. So we were like, okay, well, hopefully we'll finish this or whatever. And months went by, and then he got shot. So like nothing happened, and so then that was okay. Well, I guess nothing's gonna happen with this. And so years went by, and then eventually the same track that I'd done that he'd rapped on, some other rapper that I knew did another song to it, and whatever. But nothing happened with that either. And years went by, and then we're talking like 2000. I forgot when that happened, when this came out. But anyway, long story short, like 10 years later, at least 15 years later, I forget. Uh, I was touring with my band and I was in Denver, Colorado. I go to Tower Records at the time to buy some CDs, like because every Tuesday I used to go buy CDs and listen to a bunch of things. And even while I was touring, I was doing that because I had a computer. I could still I had a CD-ROM drive. I could listen to CDs that way. And so I go in there and I hear the song, but it's a different version of the song. But there's some leftover things and that were in there, and his voice, the Tupac's voice was there, and I was like, "Whoa, what happened?" So I make phone calls and I call my publisher, I call my lawyer. I'm like, "What's going on here?" Turns out it was on the Tupac Resurrection soundtrack. It had already gone platinum, I believe, by then, and I wasn't even aware of it. And so I made a bunch of phone calls. What saved me was the fact that because I couldn't prove I didn't have the master because it was an Ice-T studio, but I still had the original track. But that doesn't really matter because I had to prove that I had done it before and all that kind of stuff. Luckily, I mentioned that another rapper had done a song to that track and he copyrighted it. So because of that, the track was copywritten before this came out, and so I was able to prove that I was a part of that song and on the original production and all that kind of stuff. So So we all got credit. So I ended up getting credit on the song on the next release, and then the guy who did the other song that had nothing to do with it also got credit because when you have a copyright, you can't just cut it up like that. So you have to join all the co-writers, even if it's different songs. So everybody got credit this time, and so it all worked out. I mean, I didn't see a dime because it was already out, and but I was able to get to be on the credits for the second release. So at least it made a little bit of noise, and so that was the story on that. It's just kind of one of those things that just happens very often. You just don't get credit, or and so yeah.
Yeah, and anytime lawyers get involved in some kind of a business transaction, whether it's venture capital, entertainment, things kind of get a little bit dicey in between. And so in terms of that, like, AI is very much a double-edged sword in production. And so like
Yeah.
you've got a giant audio visual stack like across the room. And but aside from what's being produced in studios, like there's somewhat of a dichotomy between the originality. And so with AI, it's like it's easy to plow through millions or billions of pre-published tracks versus
Yes.
recording and mixing them in-house. And
Yeah.
so sort of how do you see that as changing the game? And then where does human authorship, originality, and sort of emotion
Ooh.
and purpose play into the artistry process?
Yeah, this is a tough one. So I just, I finished my movie recently. I worked on this movie and I did an album. I recorded my album, HI, Human Intelligence. I did all the songs myself, obviously. And it was my first album for me. The album and the movie are about finding one's voice. So that's what happened. I found my voice because I'd been working for everybody else up until now. And so I did this movie and I was going to use, some film crews to do the videos because I figured since nobody knows who I am, I might as well, uh, you know, do videos because it's a better way to showcase the songs, etc. Long story short, it was too expensive. Like, after COVID, the industry kind of fell downwards for a while there, and it's still not quite there yet. So I didn't have the budget to hire a crew, so I ended up using AI to animate my movie, but it was still my artwork. So I unknowingly, I actually ended up doing it ethically because I did all the artwork myself. So I did the first and last frame of all in Photoshop and all the shots, and then I used AI to do the animation. So I used AI in a technical way where it's as if I'd hired an animator to animate the frames of pre-existing art, like the art that I've done, basically,
Yeah.
which is a much different thing than prompting. Like I could have prompted away and said, okay, the song's about this and that, and there's a character that does that. It would have been just all AI generated. So that would have been an AI generated movie as opposed to AI animated. So there's a big difference there. So the reason why I'm talking about that is because I'm just kind of trying to draw a parallel between that and what people are doing with music. It's a very different thing because, oh gosh, because with music you can literally, it's not like a movie. A song is much faster, much easier to put together than a movie, obviously, because it's just you can do it alone. I mean, I did the movie alone, but that's because of the help of AI, obviously. But for the song, I you can literally say, "Hey, I want a cool, funky song that sounds like it's from the '70s and from like a mixture between blah blah and blah blah," and that's it. And then 20 seconds later, you have an amazing song that sounds just like whatever you said, basically. And you can do that 20 times. You'll get 20 amazing songs. Some of them might not be as good, but you might come up with a hit song like that just by doing nothing, by
Yeah.
with the prompt. And there's other ways also. People work with Suno where you have a little more participation, but the job of a producer is basically lost to that because like you can literally you can sing a melody to the system and then it'll produce a track for you and it'll do it in 20 seconds and it sounds pretty damn good. It sounds better than a lot of humans, and so that's where I'm still kind of at a loss. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen at this point on. I have more questions than answers, but I just know that the craft of producing music and even writing, because if you just have a melody in the song, then it's producing the track, the chords, the music, the underlying melodies that are there as well. So it's also writing, part of the song, obviously. And so yeah, in this case, my job is as a producer is being completely replaced, and as a result, I have a lot of clients coming in that want me to reproduce one of the like a track that was generated by AI, or they want to re-record the vocals, that they would be re-singing the AI vocals from the AI, the AI artist vocals. because they don't want, because obviously if they use the AI track, they might have a problem with ownership or something like that because it's hard to say who did it. So they want to make it seem like, humans did everything. So we get paid kind of thing. And so I'm kind of running into these kind of situations right now with the music.
For instance,
Yeah.
scored movies with people like Philip Lawrence, who worked intensively with Bruno Mars. And so like on the artwork for those movies, you've got, two bluebirds standing side by side. Like that's that's really hard to generate with AI because
Oh yeah, you're talking about Rio too. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Rio too.
Yeah.
And because like so the artwork of that's more voxel based. And so it's gonna be built in something like Houdini versus like an LLM, which is going to be pixel based. And so the mathematics behind how those are produced is they don't necessarily match. And so
Okay.
like when it comes down to the production side, it's like, when you're layering the audio tracks,
Yeah.
there are, innumerable hundreds, thousands
Tracks.
of tracks that
Yeah.
are being played with various instrumentals,
Yeah.
and then the frequency and all of that gets tweaked per track.
Yes.
And so AI is not, it's going to take a very, very long time before AI can
Yes.
fine tune the dynamics
On
on
separate tracks.
all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does it all at once. That's the crazy thing. I don't even know how it does that, but it
Yeah.
literally does. And you have to, when people separate the tracks after, it's AI separation. So it's not perfect. It's like separating a track from anybody. So it doesn't do it because it created those tracks separately. It doesn't sound as good that way. So, it's crazy that you have to, I don't know, you have to do it, you have to take that approach to get stems out of it. And
Yeah.
because it didn't create the separate tracks itself. I don't know that's a miracle to me. Like, how does it, because the drums, the bass, all the instruments are there. They're just all done at once.
I mean,
That's mind-boggling to me.
AI will never be, like, Bruno Mars. AI will never be
Right.
Shakira or Beto Cuevas, like, because there's a human experience behind that. And
Yeah, yeah.
so,
But
and
the interesting thing though is that it does get inspired because AI has a perfect memory, basically. It remembers everything. So it's a much better memory than we have. So when it's listening to millions of other artists, it knows how to, it gets inspired like we do. In other words, it's not scraping the numbers like a lot of people think. It's actually listening, remembering, and recreating something from its memory that sounds like a mixture of a bunch of things, which is kind of like it's inspired like humans are in a way, except it does a much faster job at spitting something out. It's like when we think about a song, like if I think about a song, I'm not thinking about the separate tracks. I do think about the whole thing as one. That's kind of what it's doing, except it's doing it in a much more precise and sophisticated way because it can spit it out, and like what would happen if you could hear somebody as they're thinking. I don't know if you could actually hear the drums, the bass, that like what it's doing, and you probably hear an approximate, approximation of a song, but so it's yeah, I think the result of that is that the better it gets at it, the more we're going to work with AI to get stuff done faster. But we're always going to want to work without AI as well because we want to create our own art as well. We don't want to be cheating all the time. But if we're in a rush to get a bunch of things done for a job or something, I believe that working artists are going to become maybe ten times less creative than they were before, but they're going to create 10 times more material. So we're going to be basically just as creative as we were with just more stuff coming out because we have so much help from the AI, you know. Oh, anyway, yeah,
I
who
mean,
knows where I'm
yeah.
going right now, but sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. I mean,
There's so
so
much. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I mean, AI, I mean, so everybody's talking about it. It doesn't matter if someone was an actor, who was involved in like the 2023, SAG strikes,
yeah,
or anyone else in
yeah,
the entertainment industry within the Los Angeles area. Like it's on everybody's mind.
yeah,
And um I think so. Like, I think there's definitely still a lot of hope for artists. It's like there's people I do think that like it's definitely going to be mixed at the
yes,
moment because like the studios, it doesn't matter if it's Disney, it doesn't matter if it's Universal. They're all probably signing partnership agreements with the giant AI companies, and so like that
hmm
that trickles down
yeah,
to all of the independent artists and any of their managers and labels and whatnot. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
and while AI is fascinating, like it's incredibly powerful. It's about precision and raw efficiency, and the whole thing is just about about doing that as numerically accurate as possible. Like there's
Hmm.
not much of a human element.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
okay. And so so on a brighter note, like
Yeah.
so
I know it's insane. It's insane.
I mean, yeah, but so would you mind talking a little about tracks with Giorgio Moroder, you know, the
Yeah, the Georgia Mortar experience was great. I worked on that with Rainey Shackney. We did like 4 songs on that, and but I did a lot of the hands-on production myself. And one of the songs in particular was just a fun little fact. It was just a fun thing that happened to me. I was going back to my hometown in France when that came up. The Britney song came up. What was it called again? It was the
Tom's Diner?
Tom's Diner,
Yeah.
yes. So the remix of that, basically, remix. So I got her voice. So they sent me her vocal, and that was in 2000. When was that? I forgot when that was. It was a while
15.
back, but I had my laptop in France, and since the time difference, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning there, and when I received that, and I started working on it. So I was in the veranda or the patio, the outdoor patio of this house in France, in the middle of the country with the view out there. But except it was dark. It was 4 in the morning. I was in my childhood home working on a Britney remix. I mean, to me, that just felt weird because I kind of felt back like being in like childhood, like being a kid in this house and like working on the Britney Spears track and doing this remix with my headphones on, and it was just dark outside and in the French countryside. I was just to me that was a cool experience. It felt like there was a big dichotomy there, just the different situations, the memory of childhood and then the grandness of this project, I felt it's pretty big, So that was a lot of fun. That was a nice experience, I got to say.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say about that. It was really more of just that feeling of working on that kind of project in the middle of nowhere, and um, yeah,
Okay. Yes. Yeah, Tom's Diner is one of those tracks that has been like remixed like
yes,
nearly 1,000 times
yeah,
since the
yeah,
1980s.
yeah,
And so like that is where human artistry will reign supreme, and
yeah.
God knows what the record studios are making on the residuals from
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
copyright chain.
absolutely. Yeah,
Um
yeah.
okay.
I know.
So all right, so let's talk more about awards and everything else. And so you got the 2014 Latin Grammy for producing with Vito Cuevas, and then you've got
Yeah, that was
multiple.
let's see, that was best Latin pop album, I believe, of 2014 or 2013. 2014, yeah.
Okay.
And there was also a nomination of best songwriter on that album too, but yeah, that was just a nomination.
Okay.
Just a nomination.
And
It's great. Nothing wrong with a nomination.
no, I mean,
And then yeah, what else? I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying there was oh yeah, you were just gonna mention
I'm
uh the other project. There was an older nomination in 2003. Uh why am I drawing a blank right now?
because you have like 6 or 7 different Grammy nominations. Um,
uh, yeah, those. I mean,
but
the cool thing is that they're all Latin Grammy nominations,
but
and there's this one Grammy as well. And
like
uh, yeah, there's a reason. I mean, I just yeah, I fell in love with the whole Latin vibe, and I was working with Claudia Brandt a lot for a lot of years. She's a huge Latin songwriter. And yeah, so just over the years, just a bunch of Grammys came up like because of that. And David Bisbal, that was more recent. So I had like I believe I had 3 nominations on that. It was what was it, best album, I think, and then songwriter, producer, and then it was I'm sorry, yeah, the album, the producer and engineer. So yeah, those were the nominations for that. And then yeah, so Shakira won that year. So that kind of, but it was great to be there and be part of the whole nominated situation. I'm trying to think who else I got a nomination on. Oh, DJ Kane. Yeah, that was the first one. It was in 2003 or something. It was a long time ago. DJ Kane. That was for best producer, I believe, and songwriter as well. So those were those nominations. So it was like a total of 7 nominations, one win, and then 6 nominations. Yeah.
okay. And then do you have a second to kind of to talk about like your tech stack? I mean, like you've got a nice wall of speakers and mixing boards and everything
Yeah.
else. And what was the name of the software program you used again?
I use Nuendo or
Nuendo.
Cubase. I go back and
Okay.
forth because I've been beta testing for Steinberg forever. So yeah,
Okay.
that's the software that I've been. My brain has been poured into that software like crazy. A lot of the
Mm.
features are things that I asked for and I ended up getting. The cool thing about beta testing for these companies, you can ask for something and then 6 months later, sometimes they actually do it. And
Yeah.
so it's like my third arm. I mean, I know this software by heart. I could just click away and it works so fast on that thing. And I have these huge templates that I have actually one big template that I have that every possible track is on that template. So it's a huge project, but it's empty. So the tracks are ready to go. There's a full orchestra in there, and with every possible instrument you can think of. There's on the commercial music side, there's every decade, like every era is on there from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, till today. So every drum sound you can think of, everything, every synth sound, everything. I've literally been developing this project daily and or weekly for the last 20 years. So it's the same project that's been growing into this crazy thing. So when I start a new song, I just click on a track, record, click, and I get a song done in like 2 or 3 hours. And when nothing was there before, there's a finished song that just basically mixed and mastered, within 3 hours.
Cool.
So yeah, that's kind of how I work at this point.
All right. And so how does that compare to sort of the stack you use to produce the AI video? And so you mixed a couple of things in Photoshop, you place that into the
Yes.
LLM generated video. And so when you're mixing and matching across different software programs and files, when you're producing tracks, sort of how do you
Oh,
see?
well, so my music, I'm doing it all in Nuendo, basically, from the beginning all the way to mastering, because I have a master. Sometimes I master from the project, and sometimes if I'm doing a bunch of songs from different producers, and I'll master from a different template, which has all my chains ready to go. So
Okay.
it goes really fast. And by the way, mastering is one of those jobs that's about to be completely taken over by AI because it's a very technical job and there's an art to it, but it's a technical art. So it's easier for the AI to replicate that than the creative musical composing type art, or you know what I mean. There's a difference. And same thing with mixing too. That's going to get replaced at some point as well, completely. And you'll just be like, I like that, just add a little more blood and that's it. It's just be an overseeing type thing. But anyway, to go back to the process, sorry, yeah, I keep digressing. So yeah, the difference between the music, I use one piece of software for the movie, which I was not a cinematographer. I was not a director before or a filmmaker before at all. So this is my first time doing this. I mean, I dabbled in a few videos before, but we're talking 20 years ago. But that's when I learned how to use Photoshop. So I know Photoshop from those years, from like long ago. And when I decided to do this, I kind of went through all the options out there. I did a lot of YouTube researching and just seeing what the best software was out there to generate the AI, like as far as the animation, the movement. So Kling AI was the one that I used for that because it's the best. It's really good. It's just as good as Google VO3, for example, but it's a lot cheaper. It's like 10 times cheaper. So it's 20 something dollars a month versus 250 a month, but and it does the same quality, basically, more or less, depending on because you kind of go back and forth between different models depending on what you're doing, but 90% of the movie was done in Kling AI for the animation. But the way I would do this is that because most of it was me, so it was songs that I was singing, so I was the central character. So I took photos of myself from a photo album from all these decades, from like now all the way back until I was 20 or 9 or 18. There's one video in the movie where I have long hair, and because those were from real photos of that time. And I was living in Paris there, and when I was studying in Paris, so I used those photos to generate the action of me walking around and interacting with other characters. And my ex-girlfriend at the time, it's not her, obviously, it's a different character, but um, so I put myself in the videos a lot, and I generated the different angles of myself with the animation AI. So long story short, I would put a photo of myself into Kling, and I would ask Kling to have the virtual camera spin around me, like orbit around me, and that would generate all the angles of myself, and then I could fix myself because I could recognize if it only has a front, I mean, if it turns around, my nose was too big or something, then I could fix that, for example, to make it look like myself. And then so I had all these angles, and I could start different scenes from those angles and add different bodies in Photoshop. It's easy. You can just select the thing and it'll add a body for you, and you can tweak it. And so there's all this kind of work going on,
Yeah.
back and forth. So that was the process of generating the images. Plus, I mean, I could start talking for another hour about this, but generating other characters as well. That's a whole other thing. Making sure that they were copyright free, because the AI generates characters based on, who knows, 20,000 people or whatever. So that character might have an eyebrow of somebody, and then the nostril of somebody, and then the mouth of somebody else. And so it's not really a person, but it's a mixture of the who knows who that's in
Yeah.
there in the Adobe library from the last 20 years or so. And that was before Firefly, by the way. So those were generated from those. So at least these people got paid to have their names put into the photos and into the library.
Yeah.
So I'm glad, thank goodness, I didn't even know what I was doing then, but I didn't like impede on anybody's likeness or anything like that. And so that was cool. So I'm glad that it ended up being like an ethical thing. But yeah, so those photos, that artwork that I generated in Photoshop, I did the first and last frame, and then I loaded that up into Kling. Some of the generation, like the desert or mountains or like anything that's landscape, I did a lot of that in Photoshop and in Midjourney. So I used those two softwares to do that. To me, whether you go out into the desert, which is a pre-existing place, you take photos, you hire a scout to do that, or if you have generated with AI, it's the same process to me. I don't think you're cheating because you're asking for a desert. So whether you drive out and spend a ton of money to go to, Monument Valley, or you have the AI do it for you, it's kind of the same process. So I would I'd have the AI make a desert for me, and then I'd move the mountains around. I'd move mountains, and put my character in there, and then I'd add the shadows and all those things, and that would be the starting frame, for example. And then it would end with me somewhere else, in another part of the desert, or it pans away or something. Or so then I would tell the AI to pan from this photo towards the right to whatever I'm doing at the end of the scene. So it would generate all that animation between A and B, basically.
Okay.
And then that's it. So that was the main software that I was using. And sometimes I would use Runway if I couldn't get the results that I wanted in Kling, or I tried various models to get what I wanted. So sometimes it would take forever. Sometimes it was quick. So there was basically three or four software platforms to create the movie. Oh, and I would be doing all my editing in CapCut Pro, which was the easiest thing to learn for me quickly. And then I do my
Yeah.
final in Resolve. So that's where and I also use what's the other one called? The oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's Topaz. I use Topaz to upsample to make the files bigger, and to
Okay.
the yeah, more resolution and stuff like that. And also for the frames too, it'll add to add frames in between the frames. So I use Topaz for all that. So it's about like six different apps basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, very different from the audio.
okay. And then so I'd appreciate the chance to touch on masters quickly, just
Yeah.
because I was having this random conversation with ChatGPT the other day, and it's like the producers who own masters, or even when musicians actually acquire the masters for the individual tracks or albums, like those are like, the people who own the game. ChatGPT affectionately dubbed them like, like God mode. And so with that
You're talking
changing,
about, you mean like artists that sell their masters to companies or
I
that kind of
mean,
thing, or
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so in terms of like the legal and the business aspects of that, and so you see masters themselves, like those are going to be a thing of the past. And like how do you see that sort of rippling throughout the industry? Because when something like that happens, like that's like the parent copyright, or for technical IP, it's like the parent patent from which like all children are derived.
Yeah.
And so I would be curious to sort of see like where you imagine that all going.
It's interesting. Actually, I hadn't really thought of that aspect of it, where yeah, people sell their masters to a large company, and then the company sells it to who knows what, and after a while, who knows where it is, and then it ends up with AI or who knows what, and then AI uses it to create other things and whatever. And so I guess is that where you're going towards, or are you thinking more about that?
I mean,
Or
so I think that like like a sort of what happens with the masters. I think the this that's probably more legal than anything else in terms of sort of like like rights, royalties, residuals of sort of
Yeah.
agreements behind sort of distributing like the tracks from masters. But yeah, we can we can definitely talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's a whole thing on its own as well.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and it's just funny because I've thought about that myself. So I'm like wondering, I'm broke right now. Should I just sell my masters or something? There's always that thing out there that's out there. It's just an option that's there. But yeah, yeah, there's pros and cons to that. Yeah, because you lose everything after that, and that's it. And then you got to start all over again. I know I have a few friends that did that, a few artists that did that, and they regret it because they're yeah, they have to kind of start a whole new catalog if they want to make any royalties again, and they spent all their money. And so but as far as the results of what it would, if masters are all kind of just out there, yeah, I haven't really thought about that one. It's more of a, gosh, who knows what's going to happen. It's in the hands of again, yeah,
yeah,
the world, including AI itself. So yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah, sorry about that. I've got a bunch of people who were in entertainment law or
Oh, I
people
see.
like
Yeah,
at
yeah,
like the
sure.
affairs of tech committees at
Yeah,
SAG-AFTRA, and
yeah,
they're like
yeah.
and like that seems like that's very much like their
Of
territory, like
course. Yeah,
the fine print, the
yeah,
paperwork and all of that.
yeah, yeah.
Not so much the artistry
Yeah, I'm
itself.
really on the creative side, 100%. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's a whole other world out there for me. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Um,
So here's an interesting one. Like living off of CDs, that was amazing. Like you didn't have to have a single. If you sold an album, if you had a song that was on an album that did well, you could make a good amount of money. You could live off of that. So that was my first situation for a long time. And then when was that? Napster happened at the same time as the housing crisis. That was around 2008 or 9-ish. And when everything started falling apart, no, that wasn't the financial. It was the 9/11 happened at the same time as. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about too many things here. So it was 9/11, Napster that happened about the same time. The economy just fell apart then, and all the record labels just kind of lost most of their employees and everything. Everything kind of went downhill at that point. And then there was like a 2 or 3 or 4 year period where music just wasn't doing well at all. And then after that, iTunes took over, Apple took over, and then the downloads started taking over, building, growing. And then I remember being at a place where 2 or 3 years later, I was like, oh, great, I can live off of this again. I don't have to, live off my savings anymore. And for 4 or 5 years there, it was really good. It was back to kind of normal like it used to be with the downloads. And then that's when the streaming started happening. And then that's when everything just got all destroyed all over again. So now we're still in that weird place where, we're making pennies on to get $1,000. I mean, if you have 1 million streams, you make like I forgot what it is, like $600 or something that you divide amongst everybody. So you end up with a nice meal, or something like that.
on a million
A
streams.
million streams, yeah. That sounds like wow, 1 million streams. That sounds amazing, but it really isn't. So you don't make that much off of that. Maybe $1,000, depending on which platform you're going through. So yeah, divided amongst the writers, the producer, manager, lawyer, who knows what your situation is. And yeah.
And after lawyers and managers,
Yeah.
probably nothing.
Yeah,
But
not like literally nothing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you have to find other ways. That's why there's influencers out there. Hey, I'm talking about me now. Who cares about my music? Or,
yeah,
hey, what's up, guys? Whatever. I have a zit right now. Can you help me?
yeah.
Whatever it is, just
Yeah,
you have to come up with stuff all the time. Like I'm a person now. I'm not an artist. Who cares?
yeah,
So it's oof, yeah, it's a crazy world. Things have changed,
yeah.
But yeah, no, you have to keep up with everything. And I'm just glad that I did my movie when I did it because it was right at the beginning where AI was doing a good job. It was making good, the physics were good. There was a lot of mistakes, of course, a lot of quirkiness, which was actually okay. I don't even want to go there. That's another story. But
I
but
mean,
yeah, the mistakes that helped me along the way were that's another story that I'd love to talk about at some point. But But yeah, I'm just glad I did it when I did it, because now AI is just expanding, and whatever I did, you'll be able to do that within a prompt. I mean, sure, it'll look like it'll be different, because my vision is in that project because it's my art, but you'll be able to do a whole movie within minutes, pretty soon. And so I'm just kind of glad it's out there. It's the first it's the first
Mm,
long AI animated movie, so I'm kind of excited about
cool.
that. Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'll be sure to check it out. And thanks again for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Cool.
Pleasure.